Alright guys, let's talk a little bit about game theory today. So game theory, as you all know, is about a series of outcomes based on the strategies arising due to the competitive or the conflicting situation that might arise between two or more players maybe. So basically here I will be talking only about two persons, and also what I term it as the zero sum games. Okay, so what it means and what are the assumptions for that, so that will I'll talk a little bit about today. All right, so that means game theory basically, in simplest words, it is all about the competitive situations that might arise between two or more players due to the conflicting situations or the competition. There is always a competition, of course, maybe between two players, or what we say for example between two football teams A and B, or maybe in a duopolistic market between firm A or firm B or firm 1 and firm B, right? To win over the, or to make maximum profit, or to win over the other player. So that is a conflicting situation. There is always a strategy, so the players will be using different strategies to win over the other or to empower over the other players, right? So anyway, in a two-person zero-sum game, there are some certain assumptions that needs to be strictly followed. Of course, it may be more than four assumptions, but it can be summarily put into these four observations. That's like, number one, there are two players with conflicting interests. That means there are only basically two players, not more than two players with conflicting interest or competitive situation. They are always in a conflicting or competitive situation to win over the other player, right? And the number of strategies is finite, and it results into a payoff. That means the number of strategies that player A will be using is finite. That means it is countable, and that strategy resultant of that payoffs. Suppose like here we have A1 and here we have B2. That means this B1 and B2 are the strategies that will be used by player B, and A1 and A2 will be the strategies that will be used by player A, right? So due to the actions or the strategy that has been taken by player A, right? So that will result into a payoff. So here the payoff is -3. That means uh, the player A, when he chooses A1 strategy, and while player B, if he chooses B1, then player A will be losing by -3 amount, right? It may be in terms of rupees, right? If you talk about a duopolistic market, if you talk about a football game, maybe player A and team B, so team A will be losing by -3 goals. Okay, so now again, so likewise A1, B2. So this, if A uses A1 strategy, then B2 uses B uses B2 strategy, then A1 will be winning by five number of units, or 5 rupees. So that means these are the different resultant of the payoffs or the strategies that have been adopted by these two different players, right? Now again, uh, assumption number three: the amount won by player one is exactly equal and opposite to the amount lost by the other player, right? So this is very important. See guys, so when we talk about the two-person zero-sum game, the first and very important thing that you need to remember is about while writing the payoff. So you will write the payoff for the player which is only given on the left hand side. Remember that. Okay. So here in the third assumption, the amount won by one player is exactly equal and opposite to the other player. That means here player A is on the left hand side. So we will write the payoff for the player which is on the left hand side, right? So if we write here -3, that means player A is losing by -3 amount. So basically what it means here is player B will be gaining here by +3 amount. Okay, so here it is, we can write it like this. So it is something hidden like this: -3 on the other one is +3. We do not generally write, but here for the player B it is 3. Here the amount is 3. Okay, and remember, like I said, very important, we are writing for the payoff for the player which is given on the left hand side. So if player A is losing by -3, that means player B will be gaining by 3 amount. And here in the second case, if player A is gaining here, since it is positive, right? Now player B will be losing here by around player B will be losing here by minus 5 amount. So it says what? The amount won by one player is exactly equal and opposite to the amount lost by the other player or player 2. So it means here like that. So it is hidden actually. We do not write that. In most of the books you will not find it is being written. Anyway, so it is like it is hidden. But what we basically need to understand is the amount won by one player is exactly equal and opposite to the other player. Okay, and the last one, the algebraic sum of payoffs generated results into a null matrix. Well, like I say, the player, the payoff is written only for the player which is given on the left hand side, right? So we do not write for the player B, which is already hidden here. So since it is player A is on the left hand side, we write the payoff. These are the payoffs. We write the payoffs only for the player which is given on the left hand side, right? So what it says, the fourth assumption, what it says is the algebraic sum. If we take the hidden numbers, right, which is for the player B, and add it up, right? So ultimately what we get is a null matrix. How? See, like I said, since it is minus 3 here, which is for the player A, and for the player B, it is obviously 3, right? Now again, for the player A, it is 5 here. So naturally, it will mean like what? For the player B, it will be minus 5, right? So 5 plus minus 5, ultimately, we'll get it 0. So similarly, like that, 6, since it is positive here, for the other player, that is for the player B, it will be exactly equal and opposite. So we write here minus 6. Alright. So ultimately, if we sum it up, and what we get is a resultant, that is a null matrix. Alright. So these are very important assumptions that we need to remember while framing a 2% zero sum game before going for analysis of using with saddle point or without saddle point, or when you want to use the rules of dominance, how to use that, we'll discuss it later. So for now, just remember this, the different assumptions of the 2% zero sum games, right? Okay, that's all for today. Thank you.